Hello my stitchy friends. Welcome back. My name is Laura. This is Lola D Stitches and we are here for part 3 of the Pollinator SAL. I'm so glad you're here with me. I'm excited to show you my progress and then also kind of launch part 3. So we're going to show you what we'll be stitching and then have a little chat about our pollinators this month. Okay, so we started this it's late. I'm tired. We're leaving early in the morning. And I'm pre-recording this so that it releases on time. But my brain, please forgive me, I'm a little fried. Anyways, our pattern for this SAL is In Praise of Pollinators by the Blue Flower. It is delightful. Our lighting in here is terrible today, but that's okay. I've got my pollinator earrings on my flowery pollinator shirt. I thought it should be themed. Anyways, this is our pattern. We started April 30th and we have done 2 parts. I'm releasing I'm not releasing anything. I'm more of a cruise director in this experience, and so I'm kind of directing us 1 month at a time, 1 chunk at a time. So the first month was, I'll just bring this out, our center section, which is the beehive full of bees. And it is official. The designer, Janine McGowan, has officially commented and gotten back to me that this bear was unintentional, which I think is adorable because it's so cute. Though she did confess to me that she doesn't like that the eyes are different colors. Anyways, I think it's darling and I love it even more now that I know that it's accidental. It was intended as a bee skip, and so this is where we started, and we had our cute little squirrel and our parrot and one little ladybug. There's another little ladybug coming up soon. And then month 2, so this last month, we've worked down in this lower corner, which has been delightful. We have our honey possum and our lemur, black and white ruffled lemur, and they are just delightful. I really enjoyed stitching mine, though I will confess my stitching was riddled with oopsies this month. I swear you can kind of see the shadow of where my green had actually gone up much farther, but it wound up being 1 stitch too far to the left as you're stitching it, and so I had to pull that down and pop my border over 1 more so it wasn't kissing all of my flowers going up. And then I ran into a kerfluffle here and a kerfluffle in here. It's all good. It all ironed out. But I tell you, I swear, for a solid week, I felt like every other day I was ripping out what I'd put in the previous day. Oh well, it goes that way sometimes. I had a lot of fun stitching it. I'm doing it with the called for colors. Some people are making fabulous changes and they're just gorgeous. It's been really fun to see this corner start being finished. I stitched my, oh my goodness, I should have made notes of this, Banksia flower. I stitched it going up and down, then up and then down and then up because I didn't want lines going across my full flower. It was stitched that way, I'm pretty sure, in the model, and it looks great. I just thought I'd play with it a little bit, and I like how it turned out. Yeah, so it's super cute. It was super fun. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. Oh, I'm not going to remember this well. I meant to print out a copy of this comment because I was going to read it specifically, but someone from Australia commented about the Banksia flowers, and what I remember off the top of my head is that they're often called bottle brush flowers because of the shape of flower. I'm not saying this eloquently. That's okay. Anyways, her comment is under the last video and it was fascinating, and it was so cool. I was so glad she shared a few more tidbits about the local fauna. That was really neat. So thank you for that comment. All right, so that's enough of that. Oh, I guess I should also say, I said I'm stitching with for colors. I'm also stitching on a 14 count Aida, 2 strands of floss, and I dyed it myself, so it's not something you can get anywhere. But is this coming out as scattered as it feels? Probably. It's fine. Okay, so let's talk about our next section. I have the itty bittiest little cutout that I'm not going to show you. I'm going to insert a picture here that will show the circled area of what we're stitching, and I'll just describe that in words now just to clarify, because it's a little funky, but I have my reasons for jumping us around. So a couple of our pollinators migrate at certain times of year, and I thought it would be fun to stitch them during their migration time periods. And so we are going to skip over, okay, I can't do this without the picture. Okay, here's my bigger picture. So we just did this corner, and we're gonna, logically it would make sense to go here, but we're gonna skip over this lower corner for a hot minute. And instead, we're gonna follow the bottom line mostly of this hive, and we're gonna stitch the upper half of our saguaro cactus here. So that will encompass and clear up to this first branch of, so it looks like this. The picture will be clear. I just needed to point it out so that my brain could process it tonight. So it will have the yellow blooms, the blue-tailed day gecko, the common blue butterfly, our final ladybug. It will have the mourning dove sitting on top of the cactus, the top half of the cactus with the flowers, and then the little bird sitting in the cactus, and the little wasp sitting next to the cactus. That's our line, our line of demarcation, if you will. This picture is so blurry. It's not even worth showing. I'm showing when, I've got to remember, it's showing to you right now. You will be able to see what I'm describing. Anyways, it's a little funky, but if we count out from our bee skip, we're going to be fine. And we'll do the second half of the cactus when we do that lower corner. So we've got our reasons. We're kind of hopping around. It's a little scary, but that's why we started in the middle, so we would have a branch out point for going anywhere we want in the design. You with me so far? I hope so. I hope I'm not freaking you out too much. I know it might be a bit of a stretch for stitchers who are a bit more logical in their progression, which, I mean, it makes sense. I'm just wild and crazy, so we're going on the wild and crazy side. But like I said, there's a reason for it, and we'll get into those as those pollinators come. I just think it would be really fun to talk about them in their active migratory time of year. So, I also just realized I have food in my teeth, so that's cute. Whatever. Dinner was great. What is happening? Let's talk about our pollinators. We have 3. Well, technically 4. We have 4 pollinators this month. No, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5 pollinators. Please disregard everything that comes out of my mouth for the next 10 minutes. Okay, let's start at the top and work our way down. So the top is our blue-tailed day gecko, which is this cute little guy up here. And I will say I am going completely off of Google searching pollinators that look like the images. So I'm kind of taking body clues from the picture and trying to find real life animals. So Janine did not keep a list of her pollinators. She kind of tossed her notes after the pattern was published, which I don't blame her. It's kind of like a, we're done with this, let's move on to the next thing. It makes a lot of sense. So we're just guessing. But I can confirm that all the animals I talk about are pollinators, and they look very similar to all of our little critters here. So we're going with it. We're going with this guessing game. So the blue-tailed day gecko are lizards, blah. Let's see, where do I say this? So this lizard specifically lives on a small island off of... Let me try this again. The blue-tailed day gecko is adorable, and it lives on a small island, the small island of Mauritius, which is about 900 kilometers east of Madagascar. They live in the mountains, and they are the singular pollinator of critically endangered flowers from the Rosia complex. So in the picture I'm showing of this cute little lizard dude, there is a yellow bloom, and that is the Rosia simplex. I'm totally butchering this. Anyways, I had to Google the flower because I wasn't sure what they looked like, but they are specific to this region, and they are terribly endangered. They're kind of in crisis right now. But they are happily pollinated by this adorable day gecko. Lizards are really important pollinators, sometimes replacing birds and insects in many island systems. So they really like these Rosia simplex flowers, but they also like coconut palms, banana trees, and papayas. And they're adorable. So that's that. Our next little pollinator is our common blue butterfly, which are lovely. So the common blue butterfly is the most widespread variety in Britain and Ireland of butterflies. They love sunny, grassy habitats and are while native to Europe, they have been introduced to North America. So you can see them in the Americas as well now. They prefer wildflower nectar as food, and they live for about 3 weeks once at maturity, from May to October. So we're in season right now for common butterflies. Keep your eyes peeled. The female has a brown dusting on the edges, and in my humble opinion, while the male is vibrant and beautiful and delicate, I think that the female with that brown edge has a kind of magical quality about her. I'll pop up a picture here so you can see the difference. They're both beautiful. And my sister and I saw some blue butterflies while we were hiking a few weeks ago before my knee bummed out on me. And it was just at the tail end of summer or spring, excuse me. Things were starting to warm up, but it wasn't really hot yet. And they're just the most delicate, beautiful little things. They were pretty magical to see. So we felt pretty lucky, but I had no idea at the time any of these details. So it was fun. I think we were pretty lucky to see them, frankly. We only saw a couple. Okay, our next one, as I promised, is our cute little hummingbird, which most of you will have already stitched because of my glue blah blah on Instagram, which is great. You'll be ahead of the game. You could use that as a branch out point, in fact, for easy counting over to those yellow flowers. So hummingbirds, let's talk about them. They are native to the Americas, so north and south. Hummingbirds include the world's smallest birds, which I think is pretty common knowledge. I think one of their coolest factors is that they fly up, down, sideways, and backwards. So they can basically spin in circles, and they do the most interesting things. There are over 300 species of hummingbirds, and they must feed almost constantly. I mean, they work pretty hard, right? Much like our honey possum from last month, these little guys, they also have to feed pretty much constantly. They're just so tiny and so active that they need pretty consistent nourishment, which is why hummingbirds, the vast majority of them, live in the tropics where flowers bloom year-round. They average from 2¼ inches, which I hope I didn't put my ruler away. I was going to show you. Oh, fiddle. Best laid plans. I think I put everything away. Anyways, but it was less than my finger, 2¼ inches. It was so tiny, and they grow up to, certain varieties get up to as long as 5 inches, a whole 5 inches. One really cool thing that I didn't know about them is that they use spider webbing in their nests for binding the elements together. So there was actually, in one article I read, there was a habitat, a hummingbird habitat, and they were struggling with the reproduction of their hummingbirds. The numbers just were not where they should have been. And after some kind of observation of the habitat, they realized that the workers would go through and clean up any spider webs that were forming in the area. It must not have been a huge area, would be my guess, for them to be cleaning up spider webs. Anyways, but they were taking that away, and so the nests were not what the hummingbirds wanted them to be, apparently. Once they tested not taking that away, they found that the hummingbirds would collect the spider webs and use them in their nests, and once that element was reintroduced into their nesting, the reproduction numbers increased pretty dramatically. So that's pretty cool. I had no idea. I would have thought that they were so tiny that they would kind of get tangled in spider webs, but apparently not. They're just excellent tools. Okay, so our next one is this sweet guy sitting up on top of the cactus. So, from what I could find, that is a white-winged dove, which is one of the largest doves, distinguished by a white edge on the wing. I point to my arm like it's a wing. They live in the southwest U.S., Mexico, and Central America and the Caribbean. I feel like I'm saying this really weird. They are both pollinators and seed dispersers, which is pretty common, I'm finding, in a lot of the pollinators. They will eat something that contains the seeds of their plants, and then it is dispersed through the digestion process. So they prefer cactus flowers, fruit to eat. But it was found in studies that the pollen, so the way they pollinate is that the pollen gathers on their wings, but the only kind of pollen that was found on the white-winged dove was from the saguaron cactus. So yes, they love the saguaro cactus flowers and have been observed to frequent cactus more frequently than bats do, which is interesting. And then the saguaro cactus flowers accounts for more than 90% of their crops, basically what they eat. So the cactus, as a food source and habitat, it becomes very important for these animals, which is very interesting. And I feel like when I was in school and you'd learn about bats, that was one thing that you would see, is that they were in the desert and they would eat the cactus flowers or the pollen from the flowers and stuff. But as it turns out, the white-winged dove actually frequents them more. So that was interesting. Our last guy, who is different. So you can see he's got like a little black mark on his cheek and a white wing and then a black tail. And this guy has a black band across his chest and a red mark on his cheek. So I knew it wasn't the same bird. These are two different birds that were being depicted. So I did a little Googleizing, and I found the gilded flicker, which is a brother to the northern flicker, which if you want a fabulous little, my brain, if you want a wonderful little video on information about them, Janine actually, the designer, actually did a segment in her second to last video. So the one before this last one. I'll link it down below. It's called like Do the Flicker Dance, I think is the name of her episode, which is very clever. She's far more clever with her names than I am. Anyway, so that's going to be the brother to what I'm talking about here. They're all in the woodpecker family, the flickers are, but they are called flickers. The gilded flicker is the largest of the flicker family and was recognized as its own species in 1995, which seems so recent to me. That's not that long ago that it was kind of acknowledged as its own thing. They are identified predominantly by their large black crescent on their chest. They live in the Sonoran Desert, which is predominantly in Mexico, but also branches up a little bit into Arizona and California. They prefer dry climates. They can sometimes be seen as far as eastern Colorado. In one site I was reading, it was a bird conservation site, and but they're predominantly down in the Sonoran Desert. They are ground foragers, which means that they hunt for their food on the ground. So they eat insects, ants predominantly, and then they also eat pollen and nectar, and sometimes in the colder months, wild berries. Yes, I think that's all I have. But I thought that was very interesting. So it is a woodpecker, and one thing that was interesting is that they're actually, while they feed on the saguaro cacti, so he's like living in a little cactus, right? And they do that. They'll nest. They'll pack in and nest in there. But they're also the culprits for, in some of the pictures, you'll just see dot, 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 dot down the sides of the cacti, which is actually pretty detrimental for the cacti. It's not healthy for them. They said it does something to the fibrous construction of the plant, and it can ultimately kill the cacti. So it's a bit of a give and take. Like, they are pollinators and they are feeding from it, but also the woodpecker quality of their nature tends to damage some of the cacti. So, nature has its beauty and its sorrows too. But it's pretty cool. So I'm not going to talk about our little wasp because I don't know what kind of wasp he is, and we already kind of covered wasps, relatively well in the first month. So if you want to hear more about wasps, which are cool, if sometimes a little aggressive, go back to video 1 and you can learn there. So we're just going to stick with those. And I'm not going to go over ladybugs too because I kind of covered them too. But we'll stitch our last ladybug this month, and we'll stitch, I think it's our last wasp. No. There's going to be one more over on this other side, another blue one. So, I just feel like there's supposed to be something else. That's okay. I've kind of been rattling on. We had a bit more information this time. And so I'll try to keep this as short and sweet as I can and finish this up in the next 30 seconds. So we're 25 minutes or less. Thank you so much for participating in this. I'm so glad you're here with me. It's been such a delight to see everybody's progress and to do the research and learn new things. And, it's always good to keep learning through life and kind of get to know the world around us a little bit better. And I'm just I'm a National Geographic kind of gal. And so I really enjoy all of the research and then the stitching of it. It's so much more fun for me anyways. I think it is for you guys too, to kind of have a little bit of insight into the little critters that we are stitching, and then also into their impact into our environment and the world. And as we learned in the first month, it has a direct impact in our lives and the foods that we can eat. And it's a beautiful circle of life, right? So glad to be here, glad to be a part of it. I hope you are all well and stitching away. Keep those needles a-flying. And I will be back on July 30th with part 4. Take care, everyone.